Hello. Hello. We are Rockin the Love. I am Robyn Rice Olmstead.
And I am Gil William Olmstead, and we're happy to have you here. This is our little ode to relationships every week on Wednesday, and we love to talk about what's happening and what's going on in the world and how we deal with being in relationship with ourselves and with one another.
Because it's all about relationship.
So we start off usually talking about something's going on in the world in the week. Do you have anything for this week you thought we should talk about?
Well, no. I mean, we're just talking about what's going on in the world, period. I tend to stay out of the news, so it's really just, what I hear along the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that's happening in the world is people are working to get their footing and determine what they can do to continue pushing life forward. Because sometimes it feels like there's a whole lot of stuff pushing against it. And I think that's probably one of the main things is what is mine to do in all of this?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think you're a little late to the party, but.
Oh, well, what would be new about that? Exactly.
But I mean, because I do think like we had a discussion, a retreat we were leading that doesn't feel like that was going to be about what's happening, and what do you do and how do you feel about it? And that doesn't really feel quite relevant anymore. And I know it feels like to me, we've gotten through that stage, and now we're at the, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore stage, out.
Or am I willing to do it stage?
Well, and
I know it could be done, it should be done. Am I willing to do it?
And being aware that you can do something, that there's something you can do. So,
well, yeah. And I think too, we're all working through the prospect of what is it we really want versus just reacting to what's happening out there, and I'm loving that thing. People are gathering together and saying, hey, we want something that works. We want immigrants to be treated fairly. We want et cetera, rather than, don't do this and don't do that. So I think that's a powerful thing, and I think that's happening now.
Yeah, I think people are reclaiming their power.
Yeah. That's a good word. I mean, that's a really good word. Reclamation.
You need a little ding sign. Good word.
Ding.
Okay. So welcome. If you haven't been here before, please let us know where you're tuning in from. And we'd love to hear. We are in New Mexico, and it's warming up.
It is warming up. We had some really warm days, and then we had a couple cool days, and now it seems to be back on the rise. Woohoo!
It's like it's summer.
It's kind of weird, It's gone from long johns and long sleeve shirts to shorts and t-shirts in a matter of a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's good though. I like it. It's more California-like.
It is. It's more California-like, although you and I are both kind of used to the California coastal stuff, so it tends to be a little hot pretty quick.
Yeah, it's kind of like California.
Hey, long time no see, Shay. We agree. We were just talking about that last week. Where is our Shay?
We were also talking about when you were coming on the show, so let's make sure and connect, and we can talk about all that when it won't bore somebody else. So, I mean, a viewer, you know what I mean.
Oh, okay, good.
So you interrupted me.
I did?
Yeah, because you got excited to see Shay.
Oh, oops, I'm sorry. This happens. I apologize.
I was saying, yes, not a California coastal, but it's like living in the valley.
It is kind of. You're right.
To me, it's just like the valley.
Yeah.
So,
well.
Anyway.
I moved out to Simi Valley where it was 10 degrees less.
That's not a valley. I mean, it is a valley, but it's not the valley.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I moved out of the valley to a different valley, which was slightly cooler because we got an ocean breeze in from the other side.
Okay, so please don't go technical.
Now
on
we're
me this
boring
early
the
in the
people
show.
with Southern California topography or geography or something.
Who is this we that you speak of?
Me
Okay.
and Costa Rica. We're right here. We're doing it together.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, good to see you, Shay. We're really happy you're here and that you've been busy doing lots of good stuff. Yay. So
Morning Sip.
you
You
can tune into Morning Sip with Reverend Melissa and get your dose of Shay as well. Very cool. Very cool. So our topic today is about balance. Balance in a relationship.
Balance in life. Balance. Just what the heck is it?
In the balance. Yeah. Hanging in the balance. What does that mean? There you go.
Hanging in the balance?
Isn't that the same, right?
Could be.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. It's gonna be one of these shows. Help me, Michael. Help me. Okay. So yeah, so just talking about balance. So we're gonna do that. But not before we talk about good news.
Yes. Would you like me to start?
I would.
Okay. All right. So, speaking of California, recently in the last week or so, there was an earthquake in Southern California near San Diego. And at the Wild Animal Park in San Diego, they have film of what the elephants did during the earthquake. And it's fascinating. So you see the camera start to shake and you can tell it's happening. And these elephants are all over this large space that they're in. And they all just start kind of running around. And then they're eventually all running to the middle. And when they get to the middle, they get the two young ones in the middle and they all stand in a circle with facing outward. And it's called an alert circle. And they are, that's what they do when there are potential predators or whatever to protect the herd. Is they gather in a circle and keep an eye on things. And they stayed there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and by then they realize, well, it's not going to shake again. Nothing's coming at us. It's okay. And they dispersed and went on their way, went back to mud bathing and whatever they'd been doing. But I thought it was just fascinating.
It is, right? It's so fascinating and not all at the same time.
Right.
Of course that's what they do. Of course. Because that's what we do. We protect our young ones,
right.
Or
right.
those that can't.
And funny in the story that I watched about it, they also showed some other things that happened during the earthquake. And a couple of those were about moms gathering their kids and going under a table or running outside or whatever, because they had cameras in their house. And, like you said, it's an instinct to protect the young.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty cool. But I also like the idea that they have this, kind of like the fire drills we used to have as kids in school, and you knew where to go and you all landed there.
I think what's so amazing is the order.
Yeah, the order was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that it's not just a thing. There's order, and it's really structured. It's almost like orchestrated ballet, like movement. Anyway, yeah. So animals, people, we're all amazing. That's amazing. I love that story. My story is about an 81-year-old waitress in Pittsburgh named Betty, and she couldn't retire because her Social Security checks, whatever, were like $900 a month, and so she still needed to be working. So this woman that was in there eating with her son gave her a $40 tip, and she was over the moon, excited, and just really moved, because she had overheard, she was whispering to somebody there that her back pain was really bothering her. And so Betty Betty, after the woman went out and she decided to start a GoFundMe and for Betty.
Okay.
And long story short, she ended up giving her the recording. What is it called? Not recording. Coming in.
The result, the amount.
Yeah, the amount was $300,000, and so Betty, of course, was very happy. And the woman also got her, senior lawyer and money man.
Somebody help her with the money, yeah.
And so she's just excited that she's able to now have all kinds of funds for doctors and different things.
That is great.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing, this whole crowdsourcing thing and where people are motivated to give and where if you hit the right number of people giving, nobody has to give very much, but you still end up making a huge impact. I mean, I'm guessing there were a lot of people that saw that and gave to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing I think with, TikTok and social media like that, Instagram, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that just sit there watching videos, so.
It's not just people we know sitting and watching it. No.
No, it's not just.
It's got to be thousands and thousands, because thousands and thousands of people are making them all the time too. Yeah. It's like somebody's got to spend some time watching rather than making.
But I just think it's so cool, like when people go out of their way to do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because you could do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're really thinking about somebody, and then everybody gets to participate in the good. I just think it's a really lovely, lovely, lovely.
Well, and again, that's part of the story that people feel good about, is that we're helping this person that needs it.
Right.
And isn't looking for it per se.
Well, yes. And it's another way. I mean, it's almost kind of like when we were in the beginning of the pandemic or the middle of the pandemic, and people were so excited to connect with people. So it's like, I can connect with somebody I don't know, I will never meet, and we have a thing.
Uh-huh.
And I've made a difference in their life.
Right.
And so it just feels like keeping people connected in the bigger way. Anyway, so that's my good news story. Yay, good news.
Yay.
All right. So when we come back, we're going to talk about balance in relationship. How do we stay balanced in this world that is continually moving?
And what does it mean to be balanced anyway? Now let's just kind of explore the topic.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see you right back here on New Thought Media Network in just a minute.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello, we're back, but we've changed places.
How'd we do that?
Do you know who's who? Anyway, we're back. We're back, and we're here to talk about balance. And how do we stay balanced, or how do we get balanced, or why do we need to be balanced in this world?
So what's it mean to be balanced? What are we talking about? I mean, to me, it's talking about, the various aspects of our life feeling like they're in some kind of rhythm, some kind of rhythm that feels productive and easy and fulfilling and all of that kind of stuff. Like, for instance, if I'm not getting sleep at night, then I start to feel out of balance because I just don't feel that great during the day, and I don't feel like I'm as productive. I don't feel as smart. I'm not as sharp mentally, right? So how do we create the balance where we get enough sleep in our life as one aspect of that?
It's a good question. That's a good question, and I think when I think about balance, I mean, I see the Latin woman.
Okay, then.
No, with the balance things, the scales.
Oh, the scales of justice. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, so that's what I think of in balance, and I'm not sure. I mean, yes, balance, but also I think it's kind of harmonious. Keeps coming to mind. When you can feel in sync with yourself.
Yeah, when you can feel grounded and motivated and feel that you are able to do, or able to show up for friends or whatever those things are.
Well, or show up for yourself.
Yeah. But if we feel like we're too pressed, you're right. Sometimes it's where we feel like, my God, where am I? And other times we feel like, our friends are going through stuff and we didn't even know because we weren't paying attention, because, that kind of a thing.
So being present,
being able to be present to what's happening, and it requires us to, step to make some choices. I think that's the thing. You have to make choices.
Which goes along with my quote that I got: balance is not something you find, it's something you create.
Something you create.
Yeah. And I don't know that we always think of it like that. I mean, we that have taken 92 classes and spend our life thinking about things like this, maybe, but I mean, for the most part, I think, I don't know.
Well, even at that, I mean, like, we've done spiritual classes, we've done how to do workshop type classes, we've done things where people mentored us on how to create a business, and any one of those things you come out of and you can go headlong into something, in some particular thing, and find yourself shortly down the road out of balance because you got excited, because you thought you had to do this in order to make it happen. I have to spend 3 hours a day meditating in order to be spiritual. I've got to be on the phone for 10 hours a day in order to be doing what my business needs, whatever it is,
Right.
And so we always have to find the place where it works. So even when we take those classes, we learn those things, we then have to integrate them into our lives, into the rest of what we do, whatever the thing is that we've done, whatever the class or whatever the learning we have to integrate into the rest of our lives.
Right. So, okay, so let's start with the first question, which is balance, is it a 50-50? Is that what balance, is that our definition in terms of relationship?
Well, I'm not sure where you're going with that with relationship.
Does it, what does it mean to you? Is it always 50-50 or does it shift?
Well, in order to survive in relationship, yes, sometimes it goes one way or another, but the total is always the same, but the how much is where shifts sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's important though in relationship, because I think that, you know, sometimes we do have to do more than what might be our share.
Right. Well, and yes, in relationship, in our work, in our spiritual life, in any of it, there's those times where we have to focus and be intentional about something and add more to it than seems reasonable, or more to it than really is totally balanced. But overall, you know, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, we find that we have created some kind of balance. The issue is, are we out of balance, always putting in more, always feeling like we're putting in more than our partner, or always feeling like we're doing more in the job than anyone else, or those things? If that's out of balance for an extended period of time, then we're definitely out of balance.
I think though, at the end of the day, for me, I'm just speaking for me, I think that it's about my balance and my balance within, because I can't do any. It's like putting your own life vest on first. If I'm not aware of what I need, or what I'm how I'm handling it, how I'm carrying it, what, you know, how much more I have to give, then I can't in my relation. It'll affect my relationship. You know, because we'll fight, or you'll say something and I won't understand. I'll be upset, and you know what I mean. Whatever, however it plays out, but you know, things like that is what throws it off.
So balance is multi-layered. You know, there's that, like you said, there's that balance in myself where I feel like I'm getting the rest I need. I'm available to do the things I need to do. I'm able to be with friends and family when, you know, all of that, right? Then within each of those, the question is, am I balanced? And so sometimes within those we get out of balance, or if we get out of balance within one of those, it affects how we're balanced the rest of our life. Right?
Yeah. So how do you know when you're out of balance? And anybody out there, please let us know. What's your telltale sign when you're out of balance? Because for me, I think sometimes that I think I got this. I don't need to worry about it. And I can hear or feel myself getting triggered along the way with just little things. I'm like, oh, nobody's doing anything to you, Robyn. It's not about you. But I can feel or hear what my response would be if I didn't take time to not open my mouth.
Yes, I think over in my case, over irritation, frustration at things that really don't require it. Those kinds of things indicate that there's something out of balance, whether it's I'm feeling like I've done too much for the time being, or I didn't get enough sleep, or I'm not paying attention enough to be on the same page with what's going on. You know, and therefore when I hear stuff, it makes me, you know, I somehow feel something which aggravates me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does make sense. So how do we know, like, when it's in trouble? Like when we're in trouble with it, though?
How do we know when we're in trouble with it? Well, I think, first of all, when I don't want to admit that it's happening.
Well, yeah, that's a good sign.
Well, not a good sign, but it's a sign that it's not going well. You know, because I'm so off kilter that I'm not even seeing it. And I think another thing is I don't know what another thing is in the moment. That's just the one I thought of.
Yeah. Shay says, yeah, I get triggered, frustrated, or angry. Sure sign.
Yeah, that's a sure sign something's happening.
Yeah. And triggered is such a good word in that case for me, because it's like a little nudge. It's like a little push, that's annoying and bothersome.
Well, with all the work we've been doing with the chiropractor in the last couple of months, that's funny because, we're always talking about trigger points and we're talking about these things. And it's exactly what it is. I mean, we can feel, when somebody can feel what's happening on our body, they'll just touch a certain spot and you'll go, ow, and not even know that had hurt there before. Not even have been aware. And until it gets explained, like, this is what's happening here, this is why, this is what we need to do, we don't know. And in general, in our life, I think in balance, in terms of balance, we have the same situation. We don't always really know what those things are or that they're even happening unless we kind of take some time to analyze, maybe ask somebody else to help us understand.
But, not even, yes, and for me, it doesn't even have to take some time. For me, if you really just stop in the moment and breathe and listen, the answers come. Who knows quicker than anyone when they're full of it? I do.
You do, before anyone.
Right, I do. Well, you do too.
I know, I'm kidding you.
But you know what I mean? But both of us at different times will go in to argue a point that we don't even believe in.
Right.
Just to be right.
Right. Just to argue, just to attempt to substantiate why we may have said or done something else.
Or why the other person isn't right.
Right. Right. But to sort of protect ourselves somehow.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Somehow we're protecting ourselves from this perceived threat or whatever it is. I think we're not protecting the mouse.
I have dropped the mouse on the floor, so that is where Gil's head went. I don't know. So anyway, thank you. Yeah. I think that's really important, because that's when we know, and for me, that's when we know we're out of integrity with ourselves. And that's why I say it comes back to me, because, like, if I'm fighting for something that I don't even care about, just to be the winner or whatever, there's something else going on. And that's why sometimes I say to you, what's really going on?
Mm-hmm. And I tell you, it's exactly what I'm arguing about, because I'm not very much imbalanced at the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's true, right? And sometimes I go, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes. But yeah, well, I'm sure there's a different way to do it. Like, I know some of the stuff I read was like, have fun with it, and may have a date, or whatever, or time with your partner, or friends, or family, where you sit down and talk about it, where identify different things that have happened during the week, and what worked and what didn't work, and where did you feel valued, and where did you blah, 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 and really just kind of opening up those spaces to understand how to bring the balance, and where it worked and where it didn't, not necessarily all describing the negative, but bringing in the positive.
Well, and I think we all have to learn how to be in touch with ourselves, with our own balance, and to evaluate that. And yes, sometimes how we've acted in situations could, someone could reflect that back to us, and that might help us realize where we were or where we are. But so often I think it's like, do I spend my nights going out, going to parties and hanging out and not getting home till 2 a.m. and sleeping till 6? And, and I wonder why I don't feel well. I don't feel like I can function, and I'm frustrated and I'm not getting things done. Well, then I need to adjust how I'm living my life so that I can get rest, so that I can do the other things. and that's true of our work. That's true of whatever it could be that we're out of balance with. And am I getting enough time to go out and play? Do I make sure I have time to exercise and play? And I'll tell you, that's a rough one for me, because I don't get as much as I would like. And the less I do, the less I do. So there's a point of balance in my life where I feel like I'm out of integrity in that regard. And that contributes to the rest of it. So that means when something comes up that I, quote, need to do, then that can frustrate me more than it really needs to, because I feel like it's piled onto this, my feeling that I'm not getting to do what I want to do, or should do, could,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one for relationships, like love relationships. I mean, it's a little different with your family and things. Siblings, those kind of relationships. But I think it's really important in like marital relationships, because like being clear and defining sort of what that time looks like. Because otherwise it becomes, well, you're always riding your bike, or you're always doing this, and you don't do this with me. You don't do, so how much of the time is, just figuring out for each individual how their time needs to be spent, and balancing that first to make sure everybody's being nurtured.
And I think getting in touch with what your own needs really are, and then being able to use that to negotiate, if you will, with a partner or someone else in your life, how you can work together to both accommodate whatever the needs are on both sides of that particular issue. Like, for instance, playtime. How does that look for each person? What does that require? And I think sometimes if we acquiesce too much to somebody else's needs, or our perception of what their needs or wants are, then we begin to resent and be frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, you don't let me do this stuff because you demand that I'm with you doing this. I don't want to go to the museum again, or whatever.
Right.
So anyway, so I think there's getting in touch with yourself so that you can then realize what your own need is, to be able to negotiate with others when the time arises. I mean, if you take on a job and they've told you they're going to require you to work 80-hour weeks, and you can't do that, that's not you and it's not going to work, then you have to negotiate and say, can we do it a different way before you start, unless they tell you you're going to work 40-hour weeks and then they ask you to work 80s,
Right.
But you still have to negotiate.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's just the normal flow of life, because nobody realizes what they need until they need it.
Right. Right. Well, there's that too. And I think that's an interesting piece you just said, because, quote, staying in balance, we don't even always understand what's going to hold us in balance, unless we're paying attention to it.
Right.
So when something comes up where we feel out of balance, then we have to go back and go, well, what do I need to be balanced? Because we didn't even know doing X, Y, or Z would make us feel out of balance.
Right. So let's talk about in just the natural flow of life, because we've been going through a time where the general populace has expressed that they are affected by the news and everything going on. And how does that, how do we work that into our relationships? Like, do you think that, the relationships follow that pattern of what's going on in the world, the energy flow, yin and yang, all of those kind of dynamics that show up in your daily life?
Well, I certainly think that, we're all affected by whatever that energy is that's happening in the world and what part of it we are experiencing and in touch with. Now, the question is in personal relationships or those kinds of things is, how are we allowing whatever feelings, whatever stuff we're having around those issues and that energy flow to affect how we are acting, to affect our own energy flow in relationship?
Right.
I mean, that's where the key comes in. Is, am I letting it affect? So you said I don't watch the news, and as a rule, you and I don't pay a lot of attention to the news. We don't let ourselves get wrapped up in it, because, in part, because when one of us does, we tend to get frustrated, and then we tend to, quote, waste time solving issues that we're not going to solve from that standpoint at home anyway. Maybe we should go and hang out at the protest that happens on a Saturday, but if all we do is yell at the TV each evening, we don't have time to go on Saturday. I mean, that kind of a thing. We have to bring it into figure out what's constructive. How do we deal constructively with whatever that stuff is? And I think sometimes choosing not to engage with certain things is a part of being balanced.
Yes, and I think there's also, if you're someone who wants to watch the news, I don't have this big thing about not watching the news. I just think we have to be clear what we're watching.
Right.
And whose news is it? But if we're watching, if we can watch the news and not absorb it, I mean, that in and of itself is a spiritual practice. Taking care of yourself and the knowingness to be able to, how do I say this? To be able to watch the appearances of what's going on and yet not take that in as finality of the situation.
Yeah, I think it's the whole idea of seeing beyond the appearance to what is the truth. And do we know that we are in a universe that ultimately is conspiring for our good? Can we believe that? And if we can, then we can go, that is really screwed up. I don't understand it, but I trust that there's something beyond this I'm not seeing. And that's pretty important.
Yeah, I also think that's part of that's where the tools that we have come in, right? The classes that we've taken, the books that we read, going to a meditation or going to, sit in prayer or whatever we do to re-up our status with the divine, to let go of the stuff we watch. So I think that brings like those things back into play on some level. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And, it's about, again, it's balance. Am I engaging in whatever spiritual practices I need on a, with enough time, with enough energy, with enough intention so that they support me in keeping me in balance in the way that I need to be supported to stay in balance. Right? I mean, I could, well, whatever. Point is, I have to figure out how different things hold me in balance, and then determine, am I engaging in those things in ways that will support my balance. If I know I need 8 hours of sleep a night, and I'm consistently getting 5, then there's a problem. If I need 8 hours a night and 2 nights a week I only get 6, I might be okay because I can balance that somewhere else, and I can get a nap or something. But that's what I mean. I mean, are we doing it in such a way that it helps us maintain our balance?
Shay says she gets really imbalanced when people violate her boundaries. That's a good one. then I have a hard time enforcing them because I'm activated. I have to wait and wait and wait till I can calm down and then deal with it.
You?
You? Me? Did I push your boundaries? No. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one because I don't know. I there was a time that would have been really true, and I don't even know that I would have gone back to deal with it. But so much of the time now, I spend thinking it's not about me. You know, I mean, that part's not about me. I mean, you all have heard me say over and over, my favorite agreement from Don Miguel Ruiz's book is don't take anything personally. And Gil will tell you that I take everything personally. I do. I'm like, they hate me. They don't like me. Oh my God, they don't want to be with me. I shouldn't be. But now that I just hear that as a story and I'm able to like just go, oh, nice cassette, you know, but I really, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think, you know, definitely other people and how they treat us can send us into a sense of imbalance. You know, if we feel like they're constantly stepping on our toes, you know, they're not honoring who we are, then we have to honor our own boundaries and do whatever the boundary is in order to get ourselves in a situation where we're balanced. And I think that's what it comes down to. Is it easy? No. Does it sometimes require us to calm down first and then get logical later, or to release some energy that we're holding before we go back into it? Yes. But the reality is, how can I, you know, I have the opportunity to set up my life so that I protect myself from whatever those other things are out there, so that I'm not with those people. I don't spend time in those situations. I don't, you know, so it's very unlikely that it will happen, less likely that it will happen. Will it happen? Yeah. But, you know, other people, as Robyn just said, it's not personal. So people will always walk on your boundaries unless you're holding them. You know, that's just how it is.
Well, I think the other thing about this for me is that when it comes down to a situation like that nowadays, and you know, I'm seeing or feeling or sensing or creating some injustice or something, whatever, something, what's the word, bothersome, something, you know, that isn't working for me, I tend to now go to myself. I'm like, what's happening in me that I can even see this? What's happening in me that I can call this forward? What's happening in me that, and you know, because at the end of the freaking day, I'm the only one there, you know, and it's always about me.
Right.
You know, and so there are times like when, you know, I and that's not fun. It's not pretty, you know, but I mean, there's those times where I can see somebody going through something that they think is about me, that's not about me, but it is about me. So thank you for sharing, but it's really about you, you know. I mean, it's so convoluted, you know. But I mean, I think it always gives me reason to pause and to check in and to think and to just acknowledge for myself what aspect of this is true, if any, for me, you know, and generally there's something there. Not always. Sometimes I'm able to go, nothing. I feel clean. I feel like I've learned this lesson, and my job is really just to be okay with somebody else having their process and knowing that I was in integrity and did what I needed to do.
Right.
But, you know, y'all know that can be exhausting. That's a lot of work. So much easier to go, you did it. You. So
yeah, I think that the spiritual journey is so much about coming to terms with the wonderful news and the terrible responsibility that we really are in charge of our own lives. You know, we have control over our lives to a certain level. And so we have control over how we act. We have control over what we do. We have control over whether we follow the rules or not. We or whatever. And we're responsible for whether or not we follow the rules. We're responsible for if something is reflected back to us that we don't like, that we take that into consideration and look at it and go, oh, is that how I want to act? Is that what I meant to do? Is there something else I could have done that wouldn't have perhaps given that impression? You know, we become responsible for it instead of somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
And it's part of the beauty. And I think it's the weight of coming to some kind of spiritual understanding. It's a both and.
It reminds me of when everybody was watching The Secret and learning about the law of attraction, and you know, all these new people were coming into the movements, and you know, everybody was going to have a little red Corvette, you know, all those things. And you know, and then at some point they learned that that's not what that's about. That's not what this is about. And then you go back to it's work. It's constant work. There's no easy solution. There's no easy solution. At least for me, because wherever I go, there I am. And if I have to spend time with me, there's no easy solution. But you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Shay.
Thank you, Shay. I was going to put myself down right away, but we can be annoying. I mean, but but it's so true. It's so annoying to myself.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and it doesn't matter how much you know or what you think. It's like being able to know it and claim it in those moments. But you know,
and there's no shame in being wherever you are with it. That's the other piece. You know, you talked about The Secret, and people, you know, there are people that are very critical of all that because, you know, people are just coming and wanting to get stuff. And that's not what spirituality is about. But understanding that they could do that was what allowed them to open up to what else spirituality was going to teach them.
Yeah.
Right? And don't we all walk through those processes where we discover something that really impacts us, that we can then, because now we understand that, now we can start to understand some other things.
Yeah.
Because we see that and we go, well, yeah, you can do that to get the Corvette, but maybe that's not all it's about. You know?
Well, and for another show, what about stuff isn't spiritual?
Right.
You know,
right. Well, then there's the other, right. How much of that is judgment on the part of somebody who thinks they're more spiritual than others? So therefore, if somebody's doing X, they're not as spiritual. You know, I mean, that's kind of always the joke in spiritual circles. It's like, well, we don't judge where people are. Yeah, well, maybe. We'd like to think we don't.
Right.
Can
you make a note? Get producer Corvette for Christmas.
Yes. Yeah. I'll note that in the file.
Okay. All right. Noted. Thanks. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's such a good point, and I will leave with this one story because I'm thinking about stuff. And when we had our car accident a few weeks ago, we were so sad to lose our car.
We were so sad.
We were so sad. our car's name was Holly, short for holiday. But and what year is it?
2008.
2008 car. And you know what? I had to keep telling myself, we are one. It's still part of God. It's okay that I miss this car this much. I mean, so it's all relative, I think, and can't be too serious about it, right?
Right. And
love your stuff, love your spirituality, love each other.
But that's a really good story or point. If you follow that story a little bit, I mean, how far out of balance could we have gotten if we'd really let our feelings about, I'm not ready to give this car up, I've done this work to it, it has brand new tires, I have it set up to go camping, all the stuff that it had, right? It's comfortable, everybody likes it, blah, 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 blah. But if we had focused on that, in an imbalanced way, it could have become a real issue for us. Right?
Yep. It could have.
And so that's the thing too. I mean, it's okay to see it, to feel it, to notice it, but the question is then how do we move forward?
Yeah, what are you willing to do with it? Or what is it there to teach you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, like for me, I just had to let go of, what am I going to do without that car? I mean, it does certain things that my other car doesn't. My other cars don't.
Yeah.
But one of them doesn't want to run now either. So now I'm down to car.
I know. People and their stuff. Anyway, that's what we got today for balance. And I hope somewhere in there was a nugget for you. There was a lot there. I mean, there's a lot to process. So thank you for hanging in there with us. We'd love to see you and your little red Corvette back here next week.
Yes.
And as we said earlier, we got to get Shay on because she's a hot commodity. Look at her. She's like appearing on New Thought Media Network, zipping through the programs. So we promise we'll have Shay for you and a couple other people coming up. And if there's something you'd like us to talk about, feel free to throw that in the chat as well, because we'd love to do that. So thank you for being here. And you know what you need to do, people? It is the time to rock the love.
Rock the love.
Take it out into the world and love each other. Bye.
Rock on.